Alright, it was for my dam in a massy and family action issue. Medo bibias at the by action issue. Now myself, say notification button and hear me a pan or better any on. Say the abis baby on someone's bedding, a becan wash. Nabi bia, I kama. See the news emotion like a debram, a went to many bread, Yankuti in C0cà, a cost.
The fact that Omo COB and Chess says Bonisem in Nihon. And Uber realizes for years on end, we echo and we hardly hear about such paths, but lately, it's a weekly ritual to the extent that Omo to make you worth over $300 million. That is a major task. Recently, Omachu the Director of Investigation and National Security. More like so when you are a train say when you say no and to say anyhow, but commitment to stopping it no not anyhow. But I say under the new security dispensation we will say normal baby assessor. Secondly, mostly some on the same it happens in connivance with authorities on which measure to prevent it from even happening in the first place and how to stop it in its track. And so, more compromising state actors were brain, and they had a free hand to operate. But I think it's a different story altogether. And when we are professor, they are not going to countenance such acts of criminality. Because they are so comfortable, they let down their guards also. So it brings us to the other issue of letting down their guards. Then the Ekamians usually maybe with drugs, and you're worth $20 million. Mostly almost a strike deal. Remember $1 million. Yes, so say we are 20 years on to $1 million. Then all of a sudden, obviously, with the China income, with the $1 million, it takes a great deal of patriotism, any professionalism to reject Sasikano. And so the Ecosono, and to say the people don't attempt striking deals for me. But because of almost sense of professionalism, these issues come out and we get to understand, say, on where you will be. So, then we say, the Bible was following and National Security Coordinator, Mr. Razak Osman, they deserve a great deal of commendation for Ichumaha Omuyano. And I'm hoping, say, it doesn't just end here, it will not be a 9-day wonder. So we need a system of these dangerous criminals because almost say or mine.
Abib, Sawusha, the Center for Human Security and Peace Building for Mosha. The dear part of Bettina Maya Tia, because of course, say this is for the first time, and possibly this is not going to be the last time. And I don't know, man, in as much as I said, security
particular position and a particular post for 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, because sometimes overconfidence, I bet you are generating into complacency. And why I say you be compromised because watch on the same schedule. So you're rotation and then the last thing, internal and external collaboration. Various security services intelligence arms. A soldier for immigration for customs for police for intelligence arms. You're coordinating here, then there is proper sharing of intelligence amongst the local actors, but beyond the local actors, so because a lot of police are internationalized, I want to really use Togo into Ghana, Burkina Faso, and Ivory Coast. So if there's collaboration between Ghana for any other actors, no, and to be recently, some notorious armed robber was to go. It was due to some collaboration, no, based on an agreement between Ghana and Togo, any other countries in 2003. Okay, so 3 years and recently so people kidnapping girls or even some were arrested in Nigeria because of some international cooperation. So if you are able to collaborate progressively, but then it makes nonsense of our efforts. And Ghana, it makes nonsense because criminals will take advantage of the openness of to stage criminal activities in Ghana. So international collaboration really are very important going forward.
Yeah, that's super. We're so grateful to you.
Yasaka Professor Godfred Lockwood, or economist, or a professor, so Casino to Chimo, University of Ghana, Lagos. Prof, I'm a brother, I'll see you know, watching. Yes, I do. When you say you don't know, see this check, and a dollar no ban, a dollar no money, when you see this as you say, you see, as I say, $1 no, and I might say, you to me a free as a C0cà, and you be a bit of a cassa artificial. We will also cassa a reality, a question Casabia, and to Chia, or mine, and Manako Kobasa. What do is Cassino, the Pacho? Artificial sort of mechanics of the natural name, she said, I'm not $1 echo from I'm not seeing the journey. We are happy to see now. When to make artificial, there is some intentionality behind it. And I would explain the intentionality. Empathy 2 angles. One, fiscal policy. USHA 2025 budget. About present year, this year now, we look at it expenditure significantly. So what that means is that from the fiscal side, government is not spending. So from the fiscal side, you put the economy on the road. There is very little pressure when it comes to demand for foreign currency. When it comes to demand for foreign currency, and that is also playing out in terms of import activities. And demand for foreign currency, not only USD, so demand from because government is not spending. And after we share inflows of foreign exchange now, it is favorable to us right now. Favorable if you say gold export across cocoa export and as a share remittances. So remittances is also picking up. And from the previous administration, which they said they put in place, and we cannot take it away from them. The MS Addison and his people in terms of gold for reserves and also the management of remittances, fintechs here in Nano. So this current administration is also building on that. And to share from the inflows, the dear dollar every banner is favorable. And given that there's subdued expenditure and there's favorable effects, inflows now, government, especially the central bank, is now taking advantage of that favorable situation to drive down the rate. So this is a clear case of dragging it down. It is purely as a result of transformation in the economy now. In the rate of appreciation, the strengthening of the city, it will be gradual. It will not be this sudden. So this suddenness tells you an intention behind it to drag it down. Now, artificial, where the justification could come from, can we sustain this recovery or strengthening for the foreseeable future? Then the answer will be no. And that is why in control aircraft, we need to exercise caution. When you see the next year, and next 2 years, when government begins to spend optimally, remember, really they have not started anything. You check on the ground. There is no real expenditure going on right now. In fact, entity tender committees having been operationalized fully across ministries, department, agencies. So we have put the economy on some kind of a medically induced coma. It will share 2025 budget now. The Ministry of Finance, they are administering what we call shock therapy. Shock therapy meaning that they are shrinking expenditure. But we also know that government needs to spend to stimulate growth. So at some point, government will start spending. At some point, businesses will start spending. The pressure will begin to build. We will have to resume servicing our debt optimally and operate the economy optimally. And it is a good start now. Then the city will begin to feel the pressure. So now the question is, do you take advantage of this favorable situation because you have improved cash flows, foreign exchange, subdued expenditure, low import uptake to drag down the rate, or you rather build your reserves for the next 10-15 years and assure market players never again in the next 2 decades or so will the city depreciate the way it has happened before. So it's a question of the trade-off. And ultimately, the city not strengthen abnormally is not good for the economy. And that is why I think we should take our minds to who there's a BBO. Yes. Who import to BBA? Nobody will form say something produce What we say, see the way strengthening, the call is on importers of goods to reduce their prices. Another one. Yeah. Now, the question we need to ask ourselves is, are we comfortable to promote import-dependent economy? Or we want to strengthen local production capacity? So if the goal is to promote import-dependent, then let's continue on that path, but that is not sustainable. From November 2023, inflation on locally produced items was higher than imported inflation, which is to say, who is entrepreneur now percent who started business now producing the beer, and far better sell by importing rather than producing. Once we are importing, we are actually exporting jobs to those countries and importing unemployment into our country. So it's about the right balance, and I believe with what has happened so far, the central bank and the government probably will slow down on dragging down the rate so that we can build reserves for the future. I think that is the way we should go.
Prof, what can send the man? Send me son and baby son of what can be said? Say the dollar, see the no air cost $1 number for me. No more I can see artificial. So is this sustainable? No, we never see no hope. That's what I was saying to sustainable, so who percent judges sustainability around? Whether the economy is operating at full capacity, government servicing their debt, paying contractors, spending optimally to promote growth. Now, the ability, if all these things are in place, now that the city is still strengthening now, and when the baker says yes, it means that the strengthening is anchored by the fundamentals of the economy. The economy, especially if you take this government, since this government came, what transformative effect have we seen from the real sector of the economy? In terms of industrialization, manufacturing, the answer is no. I commend the president that they are launching programs and policies, and the rest of them. At this stage, it's policy launching. The real impact is yet to be felt on the ground. So we cannot say the strengthening is as a result of fundamental shift or structural shift in the economy, which is driving the strengthening of the currency. And whether we like it or not, from the beginning of this year to date, Bank of Ghana has injected dollars into the economy in excess of the absorption capacity
of the economy in terms of FX utilization. That is the fact. Okay, so you cannot continue on that path. And now, so we also want to look at it, sir. If the city strengthened on this path sustainably, what would that mean for our export competitiveness and export diversification? What would that mean for tourist spenders who come to Ghana because it will become expensive and all of that? If I look at Bank of Ghana's own report, we don't have significant misalignment on the real effective exchange rate. So it seems to me, sir, Bank of Ghana has an idea of where they want the exchange rate to be so that it will help in fast tracking in bringing down inflation to the band that they are targeting for this year. So if you are pushing it from the point of view of exchange rate pass through, then you should know the implication of that for the competitiveness of your domestic productive capacity. So far, an objective analysis of the situation tells us to say our economy's supply capacity is severely constrained. If that is the case, then you rather need to go for what we call supply-oriented policies that eases the restrictions on the growth drivers of the economy so that local businesses can produce at cheaper rates compared to importing. Otherwise, the substitution effect will be difficult for us to manage if this trend continues. And I think we don't have sufficient reserves to sustain the recovery for the foreseeable future. Okay, finally, Maminka has been told. Hello. Bank of Ghana should be explaining to us how their goal for reserves and the gold board and all that is going on is promoting responsible mining. Are they buying the gold for responsible artisanal small-scale miners, or gold board and all that is going on is promoting responsible gold reserve? We cannot destroy our future just to sustain the city, because if we continue on this path with the destruction to our environment, water bodies and the rest of them, 8 years, 10 years from now, we'll be weeping. There is no joy in that. We need to move gradually from environmentally destructive growth model to a more greener, sustainable, so that we turn this existential threat to existential opportunity. I feel for Ghana. In the next 8 to 10 years, you watch and see where Ghana will be. If we continue on this destructive growth model of destroying our environment in the name of gold and the rest of them, yes, of course, it is offering stability to the currency. Do you know the trade-off? Have we calculated the environmental impact and the rest of them? So we need to take a holistical look. It's not about rejoicing today. What happens in the future and the rest of them? I think that is the concern. Sometimes the problem is that we are a bit more short-term in thinking. This is our problem. So, but what the market needs is sustainability for long. Okay, so that people can plan for long. This is second quarter. If you introduce these disruptions, it's not really good for planning and the rest of them. Politically, it may be good to say we have checked the boat, but is it good optimally for the economy in terms of export, in terms of competitiveness of your local productive capacity and all of that? So I think those are the things that we need to take a critical look.
For the American that's now when the market say let's take advantage of the previous administration and maybe 2 years one district, one factory, one D, one F. We did decide that the university it's an opportune time for us to take advantage of this year. Let me access looking at which we have one man said the local production actually and also importation number for money.
Yes, I agree. Advice for the previous government or no initiatives now they are doing better also. Meanwhile, the state would have made considerable investments in those areas. And my advice, I mean just an advice, they don't need to take it. My advice would be that they should take a critical look at the economic development instruments like 1D, 1F, planting for food and jobs. Let's analyze it carefully. Let's see where the strengths are, where the weaknesses are, so we can build on the strengths and overcome the weaknesses, take advantage of the opportunities, reinforce the threats from it and the rest of them, instead of going to start things all over again and all of that. Of course, we've made some progress in the area of one district, one factory. I have looked at it and the rest of them. In fact, if you look at the supply chain mechanism, even with planting for food and jobs, we could have done far better, we all know that. But we can leverage on some learning curve that will build from that. Now, even consolidate it at the end of the day, because some businesses generally have benefited from 1D, 1F and the rest of them, and I think sustainability is what they are asking for. So that the idea that anytime there's a regime change, then businesses rise and collapse with regimes, political victimization. Now they are being in Nigeria. You saw Donald Trump in Saudi Arabia, right? How many party general secretaries and chairmen did he go with? He went with business people. They are signing deals regardless of their political affiliations. Billions of dollars that is coming to American businesses and firms. The essence of those businesses. There should be no fear and uncertainty among indigenous private sectors. As to say, what will happen to my business? So, because of that, businesses are spending so much on political risk diversification. I need to be here, because I don't know what will happen to my business.